Hey, what's up, guys? Sean P here from Victoria, BC, and this is Brick by Brick. On this series, I share step-by-step updates on how I'm relaunching my career on the West Coast. It's been a fun one. I love doing these. And as always, it's been a few weeks since I dropped an update, so I'm excited to share just some of the stuff that I've got going on in my world. And I thought a fun thing to touch on while I kind of sit here waiting for some buyers to show up would be a few of the lessons I've relearned coming into this one. It's funny because it's like if you don't work out a muscle for a while and then you go to the gym, you realize how you have maybe gotten a little bit weak. And man, there are a couple obvious things I've dropped the ball on. So I thought I'd just touch on two of the big ones that have really stood out in my calendar and in my pipeline recently. These are things that I've taught so many people not to do, and yet somehow I kind of let myself slide on it. So I'm excited to share this. I'm sure this is something that if you haven't already heard it is going to save you some heartache. And if you have already heard it, hopefully it just serves as a good reminder to do the stuff you know you ought to do, even when you feel like you might be able to get around it. Okay, so number one is, as I'm sitting here waiting for buyers to show up, I have started back in business. And one of the things that I forgot to do was set really clear expectations with buyers. And right now I've got a few purchasers who aren't quite purchasers yet. They're not quite ready. They got stuff that they got to sell. And yet I got into this rhythm of showing them properties, and it's eaten a significant amount of my time that I could have been spending generating more appointments for business that I could be doing literally right now. So the first thing that I'm going to say is that I needed to relearn how to teach people how we're going to approach the process. And specifically, if they're not quite ready yet, that's okay. And, you know, getting people into a process of knocking down the first thing first and then moving on to the things that are right in front of them afterwards. Okay. So that's the first one. Honestly, no big deal. I didn't lose much business. I've been doing a little bit more driving than really I could have. And at the same time, like, who cares? I'll be fine, right? Second one, though, pissed me off. Second one, I was speaking at a conference a couple weeks ago, and I'd met a homeowner at an open house like the night before I left. So it was Sunday. I had my trip out planned on Monday. I didn't get to him at like right away. And it was okay because this guy was so impressed with the marketing that we'd done on this open house and with my presentation of like just having met him. He emailed me being like, hey, you know, we might have our home coming to market soon. Would you like to come take a look? I'm like, man, how often does that happen? That's fantastic. So I was at the conference and it came in by email. So I just responded. I was like, how's Friday, 10 a.m.? So yes, absolutely. Come by Friday at 10 a.m. And I was like, cool. We agreed that it was like a walkthrough. So I was like, hey, dude, like, you know, I'll come for a walkthrough. We'll have a chat. Unique home. So it was a bit of a different story. I wasn't quite sure what I was walking into. And I did not call to re-qualify him. I knew roughly what their plan looked like. I knew they were seasoned real estate owners and they lived and sold and bought numerous homes throughout their lives. And our agreement was that I was just going to go and walk through the property and we'd have a chat. So I was like, no big deal. Didn't call and re-qualify him. You can see where this is going. So anyways, I show up on Friday. So that was mistake number one. I show up on Friday, get to his house, and his wife is leaving. I'm like, oh, well, that sucks. And she's like, oh, don't worry. He'll fill you in on all the stuff that we have going on. I'm like, what? Right? So anyways, mistake number two, I should have left. I should have said, oh, well, that's too bad. I'm sorry. I should have made sure that we all had that time in our calendars that it suited, you know, was convenient for both of you. It's important that we all meet together because the last thing I want to do is share a whole bunch of stuff with your partner and then leave it up to him to try to explain to you all the things that we covered. I'd like to cover this firsthand with you. When's the time that I might be able to come back, right? Or what I really should have done is I should have requalified the appointment and made sure that all the decision makers are going to be, because like, obviously that's so important. How am I going to sign a contract unless the decision makers are there? Anyways, so he's very impressed. We had a great meeting and he said, can you send me some more info? Weird house. They'd removed some bedrooms. Oh, there's nothing worse you can do, guys, than remove bedrooms. If you renovate a home, you want to add good stuff. Don't take good stuff out of it. So anyways, they'd removed bedrooms to give themselves more space, which I was nervous about. So I left and went and I told them that I'd send them some more info. And our discussion when I left was, I'll come back and we'll have another sit down with you and your wife and we'll nail down a price and talk about how we're going to proceed. So anyways, I leave, put together a beautiful package of information for him, and I send him all the comps. Okay. I follow up a day and a half later, and he says, oh yeah, well, I got your thing, but there was no like pricing information. I was like, oh, sorry, there was a link, here's where it was. And he calls me back a minute later. He's like, no, I saw those, but I was hoping that you'd help us nail down exactly what the pricing was. And I was like, okay, well, we talked about me coming back to sit down with you and your wife, and that's typically when that would happen. Okay, no problem. So he says, listen, I'd really love if you could send me some stuff because we really want to look at this and, figure out what we're going to do. I said, no problem. So I sent him a really nice video. I spent like 20 minutes making this beautiful video, going over the market, explaining what was happening, send him all the comps. I went through the comps in the video, like I did a screen share thing, send it to him. I swear to God, for the next week and a half, I called this guy like probably 6 times. I sent him 4 different text messages like, hey, are you okay? Did you get my thing? Like, what's going on? Anyways, finally hear back. And he's like, oh, Sean, so sorry, got called out of town on work and my wife just picked an agent while I was gone. Not mad at him. Shame on me, right? I should have been more firm in my pre-sale routine. I should have been more firm in the way that I carried the meeting. It's a tricky one because, sometimes you really want to work with people in a way that they're most comfortable. And it felt like I was doing that. And I put all this energy into giving him exactly the things that he asked for. And in the end, I don't even know if you watched that video. I skipped out on half of my kids' bedtime to shoot this 20-minute video, giving him all this great information. I bet you the guy never watched it. So it just goes to show how important it is to have a process. When you get on a commercial airliner, they don't ask you how you'd like them to fly the airplane. They fly the airplane according to their checklist and spec, right? So when we enter as professionals, it's up to us to guide people as to how the process works. If you need to sell your home before you buy, let's focus on the sale. We can go out and see a few things, but we're not going to start doing showings every single week. If you are interested in interviewing with me to decide on, what my best approach to sell your home would be, and that's something that you'd like to consult with me on, then you're both going to be there. Or I'm going to schedule us again for another time when both of you can make this a priority in your schedule. Because if it's not a priority for you and you're leaving to go walk your dog as I'm arriving, then it's clear to me that this was never a real appointment. And even if it wasn't a real appointment, if I'd rescheduled and got in front of them, I could have made it a more real appointment than it was. So be strong, be firm, and don't go outside of your standards, even if it feels like it's what the client wants or what might be best for them in the moment, because it doesn't serve you. And frankly, in this instance, it didn't serve them. The poor people listed dramatically over what their home would ever sell for. And I'm going to go back and get them in the spring and clean them up. But in the interim, they're hurting the value of their home through their reputation. So take care of people by taking care of yourself and stick to your guns. All right, guys. Always love doing these. Thanks for watching.